we're all laughing in here because it has taken us 3 times to record this interview with you guys today. So 3 times. First time, internet went out. Second time, Patty didn't plug this in and lost power. And I'm so grateful to have Kayla and Kristin to share their lives, and especially about self-care. But it's not really about self-care because at the end of the day, we started talking about language and the story we tell ourselves. So welcome, youth developer, to your channel, to your platform. I have 2 amazing teachers. We have Kristin over here, who is a junior kindergarten teacher. She lives in Portland, Oregon, Portlandia, and she's an inspired author. And yes, story coach as well, which we're going to end up talking about this later on. And down here, it is Kayla Becker in the house from Iowa. She's an 8th grade teacher as well as a yoga teacher.
I've taught, this is my 13th year in education. I started my career in South Korea and I taught abroad for a year, adults and children. And then I moved back to the States and I started teaching high school students before I transitioned to middle school students, which is what I do currently. And my first several years of teaching, I would work 13, 14-hour days. Easily. I would work every single weekend, and I would always be creating more materials and instructional items for my students, and that's not sustainable. We can all agree. So I eventually learned that I needed to provide more self-care to myself, which is what led to my yoga practice and other things that I do to help myself find self-love. Is kind of what Kristin and I call it, self-love, because it wasn't sustainable. And because of the amount of time that I was working and I wasn't giving back to myself, it wasn't providing the best experience for my students in the classroom, because students learn better when their teachers are happy and they are in the zone and they feel like their lives are completely fulfilled inside and outside of school. And I was spending too much time in one area and not in my focusing on myself. And by turning the needle on that and focusing more on my own care, I have become a better teacher because of that.
Yeah, absolutely. What was like the thing that like kind of like you said, like where you drew the line, you were like, no more?
It was more recent. It was when I broke my hip running a half marathon. So I had been doing the yoga practice and I had thought that I was doing self-care for myself. And I was to some extent. However, I was focusing still so much on what other people wanted and needed that I was providing more care to them. And I was justifying it as caring for myself, when in reality that wasn't true. So I was forced to pause on life in the aspect of I couldn't leave my house unless if somebody came and picked me up. And I was forced to really turn inward and start healing myself and providing love to myself. Mothering myself is kind of what I call it. I had to start mothering myself, and that has opened up a whole new world for me. When I arrived at Paleo FX and I met Mark and I started in Lifted, and then I met all of you lovely people, and here I am 8 months later.
Wow, I do remember. Where did you do the half marathon?
In Iowa. Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool.
Couple miles in and I had the fracture. So yeah, I mean, it was a life-changing moment. And ever since that happened, I just kept telling myself this happened for me. As I'm lying in the hospital bed, you know, I had no like sense of sorry for myself. It was just like, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. I have no idea why I'm laying in the hospital bed, why I'm going to have surgery, but I'm supposed to be here. And that's the feeling that I had in my body throughout the entire recovery process. Yeah. And I still feel that sense 8 months or 18 months later.
Awesome. Well, Kayla, thank you so much for sharing that. I know, like, you know, when we fall, there's only one way, right? and
Yeah.
that's up. So yeah, and just sharing, thanks for sharing that journey. I know like sometimes, I know for me, so many people, I was sick and tired of people telling me to take care of myself, like sick and tired. But it's when you fall, and for me it was going to the hospital at 2 a.m., not being able to feel my left arm, and those are the moments that wake you up, right?
Yeah.
So thanks for sharing that part of your story.
That's awesome.
Cool. Kristen,
Yeah.
self-care.
Yes. So for me, self-care is something that I developed within the last couple of years. It really developed the most this past year. Before this year, though, before this March, I would say I'd lived my whole entire life with anxiety. I didn't know a single moment in my life really where I wasn't feeling anxiety in some way. And I had tried so many different things for it, starting 2 years ago. I began doing daily yoga, and it helped. It would calm me, and it would definitely refill my cup so that I'd have the energy for teaching the next day. But it was something I had to replenish daily. And some days took way more energy or way more filling than others. I also was doing acupuncture, and that would help. Sometimes I would go for about a week period of time where I'm like, oh, I don't feel anxiety. This is new to me. So, but again, it was something that would keep continuing to come back. And I could take care of it for a little period of time, and then it would start up again. So I, with the little 5-year-olds running around all day, they really require a lot of attention and a lot of energy. Yeah. You could be talking to somebody else, and then all of a sudden all 5 of them or all of them are there like, teacher, 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 I need you right now.
Yes. This moment, right now.
Right now. And so it does take a lot of energy to keep up with them. So I needed to be on top of my game constantly. And I'd come home and be drained of energy. I wouldn't want to do anything else. And some days all I could do was like lay down on the couch and hope that I woke back up. Got some energy to make it through the rest of the day. So yeah, it means a lot to me to practice that self-care, but ultimately this past year, I attended training camp for the soul. Which that's how I met Mark and started to learn about how my language affects me. But through training camp for the soul, I learned how to heal and love myself. So with that, I began to recognize how I could tend to my own garden and help myself feel better. And as I was learning how to tend to myself, I began to set boundaries and do all these different activities that began to protect my energy. And then I learned how powerful language is and our stories and what we're telling ourselves. And that story that I'm creating can make or break my day. So I can have the worst day ever and tell myself, like, this day is terrible and all these things happened and everything went wrong. Or I can choose to say, I had a bad moment, but I'm going to take it myself, turn myself around, and move forward from here. So learning how my language affects me has really helped to protect my energy and helped with the self-love and the self-care. And it's been huge.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thanks for sharing that, right? Because like I think you were saying like replenish and then empty, replenish, then empty, and then like you're saying like language is it's kind of like the I'm trying to look for an analogy, but like the only thing I could think of, it's like it's fundamental because it's a lot of people think that it's not about being positive, because what you said is about choosing how to focus on your day, right? You can either say you had a terrible day, or like it's not going to get better, or saying, you know what, it sucked earlier, it's time to move on. you know?
I was gonna say that, you know, to me, the more I think about it, it's so important for me to model the self-care that I want the students to also do as well. So I always make like a conscious effort if they're going to turn an assignment in on time or turn an assignment in online, let's say on Google Classroom, I always have the deadline at 10 o'clock at night. And they're like, but Miss Becker, it's, you know, we could still turn it until midnight. And I said, no, your tuition should be in bed by 10 o'clock at night because you need to sleep, you know, like you need to take care of yourself. So I try to do those little things in my classroom to model to the students that we need to go to bed on time. You know, I'm not at their houses tucking them in at night, but I can put into place different practices to remind them that they need to take care of themselves, or and like model that in my own life too. So I really try to make a conscious effort of that, because that is important for them. We are important in their lives, and they do spend a lot of time with us every single day.
Yeah, I like how you kind of gave them like those benchmarks or a timeline, because it's part of the discipline, you know. And I mean, I'm so happy you do that. But schools normally, they don't teach just the art of delegation, of discipline. And Kristin, what you said, boundaries, like that's huge. Like setting boundaries, drawing the line, because it's part of the whole respecting that you got to take care of this temple here first in order to give, because you can't give out of an empty cup. So I love that. Thank you guys so much for sharing like what you're doing in the classroom. Kayla, I know that you actually do language work. Well, I've seen you do it on Slack with your 8th graders. I don't know if I told you, but I teared up because I was just like, whoa, this is actually happening in 8th grade. Like, I'm trying to help like adults, right? Or people who work with children.
Yeah.
But it did inspire me. I was like, you know what? Maybe my ICA is the youth. No, I'm just kidding. For a moment I was tempted, but I was like, no, I really want to focus on adults. But tell us a little bit about like some of that stuff you've done with the 8th graders.
Yeah. So last year at the end of the school year, we would take, if the students had a comment that I thought could potentially be changed into more of an affirmative statement, or if I had some conflict language where there were some statements in there that just didn't sit easily, I would have them write it up on the board, and we would try to change some of the negative things that they said to focus on the positive. And first I modeled it for them, and then we started doing it. I would ask the kids, like, you know, do you think you could go and change that statement into something more positive? So then it got the kids involved, and they really enjoyed doing that. And I did a lot of that at the end of last school year. This year I have a lot of students. I have dry erase board desks in my room. So the students will take a dry erase marker, and they like to write little notes to the next students that are going to come into the room. You know, like, I believe in you. Wow. And, you know, you're special. And they like to write those different statements for the new students coming in. And it's really nice to see how they can empower other people and how good they feel about themselves in doing that process. And I also just like when students come up to me, and, you know, students do confide in their teachers a lot about things that are bothering them, because they want that additional support, or they want some of that mothering, you know, when they're at school too. Just like Kristin has, the 8th graders want that same mothering. So I always try to help rephrase their language, and when I'm in conversation with them, you know, if they're saying, well, I'm having an awful day, I said, well, are you having an awful day right now, or is right now okay? And they're like, well, it's okay right now. And I said, okay, well, you know, maybe earlier I maybe didn't have the best day, but right now my day is going well. So we try to do a lot of that, just reaffirming to them that life isn't fixed in the moment, you know, and it doesn't need to stretch across the entire day. So I really try to remind them of those small pockets, which can make a big difference in their life.
Yeah, for sure. Kristin, anything with the junior kindergarten? I love that name, by the way.
Yeah. So yeah, the junior kindergartners. One thing that I really enjoyed, I found these little speaking bubbles that say, I can, I am, I will. And I laminated those, and I used them a lot at the beginning of the year. And I would write on them, and I would create different affirmations with the kids that we put up on the walls. So we have a bunch of I am statements that they can see their face next to, and that we did. So they have things like I am bold, I am brave, I am strong, different affirmations, and each of them is holding a different one. And then we use the I can one a lot. For example, at the beginning of the year, a lot of them would put their coat on and right away say, I can't do this. I can't zip my coat.
Yeah, yeah.
So I started off by telling them, you may try 3 times on your own. And then after you try 3 times, you may come to me. And then we'd work through, instead of them saying, I can't do it, we'd say, I tried really hard, and now I could use some help. So now I have some coming up to me, getting their coat zipped all on their own, and they're like, I did it, and we'll do a little high five party. They're still months later so proud of themselves for doing it on their own. So yeah, they get excited about it, and they like to see their faces on the board and be reminded of what they said too. So
yeah. Oh, that is awesome. I could totally see, like, I really, 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 really try, to put my coat on. Yeah, I love it. I love to tell people, it's like, but you can ask for help. And they're like, yeah, I can ask for help, so that's a good one. Yeah, I'm currently, I don't know what you get, so currently working on, but in my kitchen, my husband and I, for this week, we have, I have enough, I am enough, and it will be okay. And we have breath right between. And this is the first time that we're actually doing that together. As I've been working on my own, but this is like something we're actually doing as husband and wife. So I'm just, Kayla, like what you said, we have to role model.
Yeah.
And then when the people are watching, like those close to you are watching. So he's like, all right, what's up with this affirmation stuff that apparently works,
Yeah.
And I know I've shared this in the channel before, as far as like some of the shame and guilt as a nutritional therapy consultant, not loving the kitchen, and I had even a bigger thing where I told myself, why should I have clients when I'm not in my ideal weight and I'm not pregnant? Like, I shouldn't. And so the affirmation, my husband has been with me when I did the whole belly muffin. You guys remember that? And he was kind of like my MC, because one of the line is, after I lost my belly muffin, I realized how shallow I can be, that people were not going to respect me. And then the part goes, even though they did. So Jimmy will join me, and together we'll go, even though they did. So yeah, he thinks I was insane, but it led me to finishing my website, doing the open ceremony. And, it's like, I'm open for business, like to take paying clients that are not my family and my friends.
Right. And how much more impactful has that been on you with having Jimmy support you and be part of your, that process?
You know how rappers have like their backup person? I mean, that's how I felt. He was like my MC right there. I was like, I see why rappers do this. That really, like, it pumps you up. You're like, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's so true. Just like we already know the power of like self-affirmation, but like a community affirmation. Wow. Yeah. So Kayla,
Well,
absolutely.
When I think back to like Kristen's example with her classroom and stuff, like if all those little people see everyone else saying those same statements, like I tried really hard, and now I could use some help, and they just keep hearing that, what type of impact that's going to have on their lives by the time that they arrive to me in 8th grade, and how different their trajectory and their lives and their situations will be, because they know, they're calm, they know that they can try, and they know that there's someone else that will help them if they need help. And all they have to do is ask, like all you had to do is ask your husband and place it on the wall, for him to be your MC and then to do your affirmations right now. And he didn't say no. He was willing to, like, tell me more about it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the same thing that can happen in our classrooms with our students and with our colleagues. When we model those types of comments, they can see and feel how positive that is. You know, they may not understand it, you know, what is this breathing and what are these affirmations and stuff? And they still ask because they're still curious, because it is powerful and it is important and it does make a difference.
It absolutely makes a difference.
Yeah. I had a parent contact me, letting me know that the affirmations that we were doing in the classroom were really working. Her daughter, she and I had been working a lot on breathing through her emotions because she'd run into a wall and start crying. So they were taking off a Band-Aid at home. And usually she'd start crying and just tears coming down, streaming down her face when she would take off the Band-Aids and it'd be an event. But this time she was taking deep breaths and saying, I am brave. And then she'd breathe and tell herself, I'm brave. And she ripped off the Band-Aid, no problem, and went about her day afterwards. So for her, that, and her parents, that was huge. Like, this, she normally would cry and it'd be a big deal. And this time she breathed through it, affirmed herself, and went about her day.
Wow. You know, like, how many adults would it, like, change their life to say, I'm brave?
Mm.
Wow, that's deep. I mean, how old is she? 5?
5, yeah.
For her to say, I am brave, and actually have a breakthrough, that's amazing. Kristin and Kayla, not only do both names start with the K, but they love collaborating and keeping each other accountable. Yeah. So this January, they're in a mission to start a hot topic of joy. What's cooking in January about this topic of joy for you guys?
So in January, we are starting on January 2nd. We are going to do 30 days of finding joy. So we are going to be posting and inviting anybody who wants to join in on the conversation with us, but we'll be posting about different things that have brought us joy throughout the day. So keeping in mind, it could be something small, like I went and got ice cream today, or I can't think of something else. I wore my dinosaur dress today. Like, what brings us, something that brings us joy, so that we are working on that self-care, keeping it in mind, and doing check-ins throughout the day.
I love that. And how many dinosaur dresses do you own, Kristin?
1 dinosaur dress, 1 dinosaur shirt, and then a lot of teeny tiny little dinosaurs from a dinosaur restaurant we have. When you're in Portland, I may have to take you to the.
Oh, cool! That's exciting. Jimmy will be like super excited about that. That's cool. All right, yeah, I'm definitely gonna join you guys for sure, because I love how you said finding joy, because that's a big difference, right? Because you could look at something, a good thing out of a terrible situation. Yeah. So how do we find that? How do we change our perspective? How do we change the language that we tell ourselves about that? So I love it. Finding joy. It's like Finding Nemo. That should be a cover.
And we're going to do an Instagram live session on Saturday, January 25th, if anybody wants to join us for that. It'll be at 12 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Central, 9 a.m. Pacific time. And we're going to talk about our joyful experiences in January and how we have those nuggets, kind of like you said, in our life, that we don't need to create joy. It's already there. We just have to recognize it and appreciate it for being present.
Absolutely. I love it. I'll be joining the conversation on
Facebook.
On Facebook, yep.
Stories in Motion LLC on Facebook. Yeah. Well, I want to thank you again for your precious time. I said half hour. It turned out to almost be about an hour event of doing this video, but I'm so grateful that we went through it. We find joy in this whole process of doing this 3 times. So I love it. And we're leading by example, right, Kayla?
Of
right?
course.
Yeah, we get to talk about this.
Mhm.
So yeah, we'll do that, and then maybe we could do like a recap of what happened afterwards. We'll see what January has in store for us,
Yeah.
and how we choose to see and accept January and our future days to come.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Can we all wait for the camera?
First.
Big kiss. Thank you. All right.
Healthy us! Healthy children!
Can you guys hear me? No. No. Can you guys hear me? Oh, this is so cool. Okay. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
This is what happens when Zoom doesn't work out, people. But you know what? We made it through. I love it.